So this idea in the underworld that there's a safe haven.
Decorum.
And decorum. There's always like a kind of style to John Wick.
42 regular, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so it begins.
One of my favorite elements of the franchise is the rules and consequences that form the backbone of it. Can you talk about how you use them to ramp up the tension in this story and use them in a new way, maybe?
Right, I think, we always love the idea of fate and free will, what's what, and how decisions and choices make it. I'm fascinated with the idea about dilemma, not between good and bad, that's easy, but between bad and worse, or bad and bad. You have to save your wife, you have to save your daughter, who do you save? You know what I mean? And we've tried a lot to put John Wick in those choices, especially in this one, where every character, every scene you see is a reflection of a choice. Like he goes to Japan to see Hiroyuki, and he's like, "Oh, you're my pal, And John, where his head's at, goes, "Oh, this might be a good idea for you." And then it gives Hiroyuki the choice. Like Hiroyuki makes the choice and says the line that's one of my favorite lines in the movie is, friendship means little when it's convenient. It's when it's inconvenient, that's the choice he makes. And that choice alone changes John. And then that happens again, and that happens, Donnie has a choice, Shamir has a choice. They all have choices, and they're all reflecting back on John. And that's what really gives us choice. We always say in John Wick, like, the skill set doesn't define you, your choices do. That's what brings out character. So hopefully by the time you get to the end, you realize John's made a lot of bad choices. And now the consequence of those choices had led all his friends to pay his debt. And then he finally gives himself away by taking the debt of another person or friend.
I'm going to need a gun.
Can you talk about how this film ramps up the use and the tension that come out of those rules?
Well, we're dealing with the high table, and they rule by rules, right? And try to control things. And the rules also define what side you're on, and do you obey, and do you, are you with us or against us? And John Wick is very against it. So he's breaking a lot of rules. And there's other characters in the film that also are confronted by their decisions and the choices that they're going to make about these rules. And are you under the thumb? Are you on the side of the high table? Or are you not? And if you're not, there's going to be consequences to breaking the rules.
Man has to look his best when it's time to get married. Or buried.
These films are completely bound by rules and consequences, but the Bowery King's personal ethos seems to be, look, it. He does his own thing. What is the most fun about kind of getting to fill that agent of chaos role?
It's really kind of interesting because while he is at some point subject to the rules, he kind of lives outside of them in a really kind of interesting way. So I guess the best way to sum it up is it's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king. We got another History of the World coming out this weekend. It's a good time to bring that up.
Who is this?
The Marquis de Gramont.
We're to lose. It's a way out.
What is it about John's journey that you think shakes your character's allegiance to the table?
It's so interesting that, throughout the film, he is consistently considered the baddest of the bad, and yet our first introduction to him at the very beginning of the franchise is about his love for his wife, and that's his whole world.
There's a scene in the Underground Canal when they talk about, what they'd like on their headstones, Which is,
yeah.
And John suddenly says, guy says, a good husband. What? That's what I'd like to be known as. That's what I like on my headstone, a good husband. And it may seem trite, but it's not. Within context of the films, it's really powerful.
When we are beholden to the culture that we're part of, and the rules stop being about the humanity and start being about just the survival of the culture, sometimes breaking those rules sometimes finding humanity means breaking those rules, and finding your compassion means breaking those rules. And I feel like that's what John's journey is about, and that's what our role in his journey is about.
I'd just like to know if either of you have a favorite rule.
No business conducted on continental grounds.
No business can be conducted on continental grounds. I thought was really fun.
You ain't real,